For the United States, this country is all about its war on terror. But the partner they chose to fight Al-Qaeda in Yemen is in trouble.
I'm not going back to my tribe until Saleh leaves.
Go out. You know Ali Abdullah Saleh? Go out.
While President Saleh is clinging on, the uprising is proving stronger than Yemen's strongman or the United States expected. Both have to deal with an entirely new force, the people. This tent city stretches for miles and miles, and that is amazing considering that all of this started as a tiny sit-in by a few dozen students. Today, representatives of all of Yemen's regions, all of Yemen's tribes are here. President Saleh warned that this could never happen here. He said his countrymen, divided along tribal lines, would fight each other, that all of this would quickly end in chaos. Today, protesters say they've proved that they can be organized, disciplined and peaceful. This chicken symbolizes Yemen, a tribesman told us. We haven't killed it to show that we mean peace, and we'll nourish it like our revolution. President Saleh has fought back. This was the latest crackdown. Security forces shot at demonstrators in Sana'a, killing at least a dozen. Almost 150 people have died across the country since the uprising began.
Now he's united the people by killing them.
Faris is a student leader. He's been here from the start. He has had friends killed. They're now the martyrs of their cause.
After what happened in Tunisia, after what happened in Cairo, people believe, yes, we can do something because other people is do revolutions.
People say that Yemen is very dangerous. It can fall apart. There's Al-Qaeda here in the West. They're scared of Yemen.
Actually, they're scared because they don't know what's happened in Yemen. And they only see the vision what Ali Saleh, the president, was give them.
Like everyone here, Faris accuses the president of exaggerating the Al-Qaeda threat.
All the Yemenis people saying Al-Qaeda is actually coming from the president's palace. Because Al-Qaeda, we hear about Al-Qaeda, but we don't see it.
President Saleh says Al-Qaeda has infiltrated the protest camps, that extremists are waiting to take over. That's feeding into the very fear that has shaped the U.S. policy on Yemen.
I think the concern is that Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula will succeed in establishing safe havens in Yemen, akin to the ones they established in Afghanistan before 9/11. And that without an effective partner in countering Al-Qaeda, we will be faced with increased threats from Al-Qaeda based on those safe havens.
For millions of people who live here, it's not Al-Qaeda that's been a problem. It's corruption, poverty, and political repression. These are the reasons why tens of thousands of Yemenis have been braving sniper bullets and police brutality in the streets. Their determination has already changed this country. It has also raised some serious questions about choices that Washington has made in Yemen. Since 9/11, the US and Britain have spent hundreds of millions of dollars on training counter-terrorism troops under the command of Saleh's son and nephews. And the US launched airstrikes, which killed more civilians than militants. In the meantime, Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula continued to gain strength. The group showed that it was capable of staging attacks against the US when the so-called underpants bomber, who was trained in Yemen, tried to blow up a plane over Detroit. The US-born cleric Anwar al-Awlaki, who Washington says is more dangerous than Osama bin Laden, is based in Yemen. Critics say US strategy has been simply counterproductive, and that President Saleh exploited American fears.
As the Americans continued to promise more and more assistance, the government began to see that terrorism is actually a very profitable business.
So what's the lesson of that? What should have they done differently?
I think they shouldn't have fallen for the ploy that the regime would love to fight Al-Qaeda and terrorism, but they don't have the resources. We have a huge army. We have huge security force. We don't need any more of that. What we needed more is more schools, more hospitals, more roads.
For many in Yemen, America also became synonymous with the lack of political freedom, because its military aid grew despite evidence that President Saleh was using it to repress dissent. Kemal Sharif is a political cartoonist. One evening, a year ago, his house was stormed by heavily armed troops from the US trained and funded counter-terrorism unit.
My children were in serious shock. My daughter thought I was dead. I was missing for 50 days.
Kemal was accused of links to Al-Qaeda, but never charged. He spent weeks in solitary confinement until he was released, on one condition, that he would stop drawing caricatures of President Saleh.
After Obama became President of the United States, we were so optimistic, especially after his speech in Cairo. But in reality, things were the same from the US government. They were supporting the same dictators instead of building bridges with the people.
Many here are disappointed that President Obama, while supporting uprisings in Egypt and in Libya, has been much more cautious about backing their struggle. Washington is now supporting a proposed deal which would gradually transfer power to the opposition. But protesters want Saleh to go now. The White House refused to discuss its strategy on Yemen.
I think it's pretty clear that the United States now does not want Saleh in power, not because they don't like him. I think they do like him, and they've appreciated very much what he has done for them in terms of cooperation and basically allowing the United States to do what it wants in Yemen with Al-Qaeda. But they realize that now he's a liability. I think they were a little bit slow to realize that, but they believe now he is causing greater instability than stability, and they'd like him to leave.
One problem is that the US never developed strong relations with players outside the government. For years they listened to President Saleh, who said that ruling Yemen was like dancing on the heads of snakes, that only he could deal with all their tribal rivalries. This revolution has actually led to new alliances and an extraordinary grassroots movement. What's happening here is really fascinating. This is actually a tribal meeting of men who come from different tribes of Marib. That's an area which the US says is among the most dangerous tribal areas, one of the safe havens of Al-Qaeda. Men who would never talk to each other before are now discussing how to make life in Marib better. How does it work in your village? Do you know guys who've joined Al-Qaeda?
I know in my village some people who are from Al-Qaeda, but I swear to you that they do not have ideological motivation. They're joining Al-Qaeda because of poverty.
Can any of you imagine a scenario in which Al-Qaeda takes over your village, your area, your...
No. It's very impossible. You will not take any city in my words, in my country, Yemen.
Why not? Why not?
We're here as members of the revolution, and all the people here are against Al-Qaeda, against Osama bin Laden, against extremism.
The level of anger against America in Yemen is very high. Right now I think they should stand back and let the new political system deal with extremism and terrorism their own way, which is probably going to be more successful.
Partly as a result of the US policy on Yemen, the government that will eventually emerge out of the stalemate is likely to be more populist, more Islamic, and less accommodating to the US interests. Washington is worried, but protesters and politicians say that respecting choices made by people here could prove the most effective way of fighting the war on terror.